We have already learned the basics, how arrays work, looping through them with for each loops, and some hands-on examples. But now it's time to take it a step further. Let's talk about multi-dimensional arrays. An array, as we know, is a data structure that stores similar data together in memory. But sometimes we need more than just a simple list of items. So this is where multi-dimensional arrays comes in. The idea behind them is that you can have arrays inside of arrays. The concept of multi-dimensional arrays is important when you're working with the things like image processing, game development, and scientific calculations where data needs to be stored in multiple dimensions. So in this video, we will understand everything about multidimensional arrays, its syntax, its types and applications of multidimensional array with hands-on examples. Now, before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon to never miss any update. So introduction to multi-dimensional array in Java. An array in Java is like a simple structure that stores data of the same type together. Think of an array as a list of items like a list of names or numbers. But sometimes just a list isn't enough, especially when you need to store data that is more complex or structured, like information in rows and columns, similar to a spreadsheet. This is where multi-dimensional arrays comes into play. For example, consider a basic list of numbers which represents 1D array. As we can see on the screen, 1D array, array 472. 472 are the elements. Alright, and all the elements are arranged in a single line, as we can see, one after the other. Now, when your data requires an organization in tabular form with rows and columns, such as a grid or matrix like a 2D array. So as you can see on the screen, the 2D array, like this format. So in this particular case, 2D array comes into play or it becomes useful. So a 2D array allows you to manage your data in both dimensions, making it ideal for representing structures like tables. Now, a 2D array has rows and columns, and each element can be accessed using a pair of indexes, that is, row and column. Now, each position in this grid can be thought of a cell, much like how spreadsheets organize data. Now, multidimensional arrays can be extended beyond 2D. For example, a 3D array would be like a stack of tables, adding another layer of complexity by organizing data in rows, columns, and layers. Similarly, you can have 4D arrays or even higher dimensions. Through visualizing them becomes increasingly difficult. So we usually do till 3D arrays. Now, the operations performed on multi-dimensional arrays become more challenging with the increasing dimensions. You can add, subtract, multiply, and execute several other activities on a multi-dimensional array system. Alright, so this was about the multi-dimensional array introduction. Now let's proceed and understand its syntax. Alright, so here's the basic syntax for creating a multi-dimensional array. Let's start with the 2D array, which is the most common type basically. But first we have to understand its syntax. So first of all, as we can see on the screen, data type, then there's array name, then new data type, new is the keyword here, then rows and columns. So let me go through each of them one by one. So first of all, there is the data type. So this is the type of data the array will hold. It can be things like int for numbers, string for text, double for decimals, and so on. Like we discussed earlier in the previous tutorials, so I am considering that we know about the data types. So if you want to store a list of numbers, you would use int, and if you want to store names, you would use string. Alright, so this was about data type. Now array name. Now this is simply the name you give to your array, just like how you give your name to a variable. You give a name to your array so you can use it later in your code. As simple as that. You can name it whatever makes sense to your program. Now then comes the rows, as we can see on the screen in the syntax. So rows is basically the number of rows in the 2D array, which represents the first dimension. Think of it like a table where the rows go horizontally. Alright, now then columns. So this is the number of columns in the 2D array which represent the second dimension. Now columns go vertically like in a spreadsheet. So rows go horizontally and columns go vertically. Now to access or modify elements inside a 2D array, we use square brackets for both row and column, as you can see on the screen. Now, for example, if you want to access the element at row 2 and column 3, you would do something like this, like int value numbers 1 2, as we can see on the screen. Now here 1 refers to the second row, that is because we know that the count starts from 0 1 2 in programming. So here the first refers to the second row. because in Java, rows and columns start from counting from 0, that is 0, 1, 2. So as we similarly, the second, which is the column, here we have written 2, which refers to the third column, 0, 1, 2. So technically it is the third column. So now if you want to change the value of it in the array, so all you have to do is to just specify that particular position with a number. For example, here we are specifying row 1, column 2, the 7th position. So in the multi-dimensional array, in the 2D array, at this particular position, that is at position at row 1 and column 2, 7 would be specified basically. Alright. You guys will understand as we go forward. We'll do some examples if you haven't cleared it yet, but in the further tutorial when I'll be telling you the demo part, there you can clearly understand it. Alright. Now let's have a look at types of multidimensional array and do some examples so that you can also grab what I'm telling right now. Alright. So let's have a look at types of multidimensional array in. Alright. Now let's talk about applications of multidimensional array. So in Java, multi-dimensional array are pretty handy and show up in lots of different applications. Let me explain some most common uses where you will often see them. First off, there's a matrix operations. If you have ever dealt with matrices in math, like those grids of numbers, Java uses multi-dimensional array to represent them. Simple as that. So if you are doing things like multiplying matrices, adding them together, or transposing them, which just means flipping the rows and columns, you can use 2D arrays for that. This kind of work is especially useful in areas like scientific computing, data analysis, and linear algebra. So another cool use is image processing. Think of an image as just a grid of tiny dots called pixels. Well, in Java, an image can be represented as a 3D array where each element represents a pixel and its color information, like RGB values. So if you are doing things like filtering an image, resizing it, or detecting edges, multidimensional arrays comes in handy to hold all that pixel data and apply these manipulators. Then there's game development. Ever played a game when there is a board, a map, or whole world to explore? All of that can be represented using multidimensional array in Java. Each spot in the array represents a specific part of the game world, like a tile on the game board. These arrays can store all sorts of things like where the player is, where obstacles are, or the terrain features. You can even use arrays to track things like collision detection and pathfinding, where the game figures out how characters move or round obstacles. Alright. Next is data storage and analysis. Especially in fields like data science and machine learning, you deal with huge sets of data. Multidimensional arrays are great for organizing and analyzing this data. For example, if you have a data set with different features and samples, like let's say height, weight, and age of people, each feature and sample can be stored in a multidimensional array. Once the data is stored, you can apply algorithms or run statistics on it for analysis and modeling. Alright, and lastly is graphics and GUI application. So when it comes to rendering images for graphics on the screen, you can use arrays to store pixels information or details about graphical objects. For example, each pixel's color in an image can be stored in an array, and then Java used that too to draw the image on the screen. You can also track user interaction in graphical interfaces, like where a button is located or what its current state is using multi-dimensional arrays. So these were some of the applications of multi-dimensional arrays. Okay, so first one is multi-dimensional array of primitive types. So to do this example, here we will do a practical example basically. And in this particular example of a multi-dimensional array of primitive types, we will create a 2D array of integers called matrix with dimensions 3 cross 3. But yeah, it is 2-dimensional. Now we will then assign values to specific elements of the array using the row and column indices. Finally, we will print the values of 3 elements of the array. As simple as that. First of all, we'll assign it and then we'll print it. So I'm going to show you how to do this. So first of all, we have to mention the name and everything. So I believe you guys know about arrays. So it's quite similar to that. So let's do this. So matrix is basically the name of the array and int is basically the data type. Now there's new keyword and the data type again, int, and here
First is rows and columns. All right. First one is row and second one is column. Now what we'll do is we'll basically assign some values to each of these positions. All right. So the name is matrix, and here's how you can assign some values. So at 0th row and 0th column, which element should be there? So let's say I want 1, and similarly we'll just copy paste it. All right. Now at 0th position and 0th basically 0th row and 0th column, we have 1. Now let's say we'll assign another variable at 1th column and at first row and first column. Basically here we'll assign 2, and then second row and second column, here we'll assign 3. So randomly we are doing this. You can try some other positions also. I'm just showing this thing to you guys. All right. Now we know how to print system.out.println. Now here we have to just write the position, and we know what is the position. For example, I just want to print 0. Now not 0 but 1. Now we know that it is at 0th row and 0th column. So all I have to do is to write like this: the name of the array and its position. All right. So this will give us the output as 1. All right. Just mention like this. Yeah. Now similarly I'll just copy paste this thing. You can write it. All right. Now I just want to print these values basically. So what I'll do is, yeah, now here's second row and second column. All right. So here what I'm doing is we are basically printing these values. Simple as that. All right. Now there's some error. Let's check that. Yeah. All right. Now let's click on this. As you can see, 1, 2 and 3. So basically these positions are getting printed. So this is an example of array of primitive types. All right. Now let's move on to the other example, which is multi-dimensional array of objects. So now we'll do the example of multi-dimensional array of objects, where we will create a 2D array of strings, and we know what strings are, called names, with dimensions 2 cross 2. Now we will then assign names to different array of elements using the row and column indices. Then we will print the values of 2 elements of the array. Like here we did for the numbers. In this particular example that I'm gonna do, we'll do for the strings. All right. So let's do an example of multi-dimensional array of objects. All right. Let's just remove this thing. Okay. So again, the data type would be string in this case, the capital S. All right. And the name of the string is names. New keyword, and then string, which is the data type, and this is basically the syntax. And now we have to specify the size of it. So 2 cross 2 basically we want. So here it goes. Now we are storing some elements inside it like we did previously. So at 0th column and 0th row, we are storing the name, let's say John. All right. At 0th row and first column, we are storing, let's say, Robin. Now I'm just gonna copy these things. I'm just gonna print again. All right. Now at 0th, now let's say first row and 0th column. All right. I'm doing it. Okay. Sam. Then at first row and first column, here is Smith. All right. Smith with a capital S. All right. Now what we're gonna do, we're simply printing this thing now. All right. System.out.println. Okay. All right. So let's say I want to print the name of Sam. So what I'm gonna do is, Sam is at this position at first row at 0th column. I'm just gonna print that thing. And now I want to print the position of, let's say, Robin. So tell me guys, what should I print over here? 0th row and first column. Simple as that. And now let's try to run it. So this particular output should print Sam, all right, and this particular print statement should print what we call Robin. All right, let's check whether it is working or not. So as you can see, Sam and Robin is printed. So this is a fine example of multi-dimensional array of objects. And now let's move on to the next example. Now the next example we have is multi-dimensional array of arrays basically. So in this particular example, we will create a 2D array where each element is another 1D array. The matrix variable is 2D array with dimensions 3 cross 3, where each row is a 1D array of integers. Now we will access and print the values of specific elements using the row and column indexes in this particular question. So it is again simple, and let's do this. All right. So yeah, let's remove this first. First we know the data type and then the name of the array. So we can do both ways, like this also we can do, and we can just put the brackets before also, so no worries. All right, then here let me do just this thing. Just using brackets as of now. All right, now inside these brackets, as I told you that we are basically here each element is another 1D array, and where the matrix variable is a 2D array with dimensions 3 cross 3. All right, so the element is going to be storing like this, comma 2 comma 3. All right, now so this is basically the representation of this one, comma 5 comma 6. Let's just put spaces over here as well so that you can clearly see. 7 comma 8 comma 9. All right, now forgot to do this. All right, so basically this is the array that we told you. Now what we're gonna do, simply we will print the elements. Matrix at 0 position and at 0th row and 0th column. So basically this particular thing should print, tell me, 1. So just keep in mind, this is 0, this is 1, and this is 2, position wise, indexes wise. All right, so as we know that in programming the counting starts from 0, so just keep that thing in mind, so don't get confused in that. All right, I'm just copying this thing again. I'm going to show you different elements now. Let's say first column, second position. Tell me what will be the output of this particular code, the second one. So here we want to print the element which is at first row and second column. Tell me what is the output of this particular situation. So the first row it is, and second column, so 0 1 2. So row is like this, 1 2 3, and the column is like this, 1 2 and 3. So basically, let me tell you guys, this is first row and second column. So first row is this one, this is 0th row, this is first row, this is second row, and we want to print first row second column. Now tell me what is the position at second column at first row. This is 0 1 and 2, so basically 6. Here 6 will be printed. All right, now let's say I want to print second row first column element, second row first column. So tell me, this is the 0th row, this is the first row, this is the second row. All right, now here we want to print second row first column. This is the second row, first column is 7. No, tell me what is first column. This is the 0th column. We want to print the first column, so first one is 8. So yes, 8 will be printed. 0 1 2, just keep in mind the counting starts from 0 1 2. All right, now let's print it. As you can see, 1 6 8 is getting printed, as simple as that. So this was an example of multidimensional array of arrays. Now let's move forward and have a look at some more examples so that you guys can practice these examples and understand this concept better. All right. All right. Now let's do another example of multi-dimensional array. Now here we will doing a different example where I just want to show you the visual thing of it, and we will access particular elements out of it. So for that, I want you to imagine a library. Now this library has floors and each floor has shelves. On each shelf, there are books placed in specific positions. Now we are using 3D array in this particular example to represent this particular setup. Now the library is a 3D array. Think of it as a box containing smaller boxes, which we will refer here as floors. Now that particular floors will contain even smaller boxes known as shelves, and those have books inside. Now each book is represented by a string like book A1, book A2, like that. For those who don't understand, just go with me. Let's go with the flow and I'll make you guys understand. Even if you don't understand, I'll just explain the complete question after just completing it. Okay, so no need to worry. All right, so let's start with this particular question. Now let's just remove this thing first. There we go. All right, now first of all, the data type, as we know, string. Something is wrong with the keyboard. All right, yeah, now string library. All right, so to mention it clearly, I'll just keep the thing like this. I'll just comment throughout so that you guys can understand what I'm writing. First of all, as we told you, floor. So this is floor 0 basically. All right. Now over here, these are shelf number 0. All right. Now for this, we'll store an element known as book A1. All right. And use comma for another element and use book A2. All right. So this is basically the shelf now. Let me just comment this thing for you guys so that you can understand it better. Shelf 0, this is again. So this is basically floor 0 from here to here, and this is the shelf 0th number. Now another shelf we will create over here. Let me just copy it. Now here we will write A3, let's say. Yeah, A3, and here A4. This is shelf number 1. So this is floor complete, and inside floor there are shelves, as I told you earlier. Shelf 0, shelf 1. All right. Okay, we don't need to use comma over here. We'll remove it. Now here we'll use for the other element or the other floor, I can say. All right, here again I'll mention floor 1. All right, now here again we'll do the same thing. Book B1 comma book B2 and shelf 0. All right, again I'll just copy this thing. So this is for you guys so that you can understand what I'm doing right now. B3, this is B4. This is floor 1 and it has two shelves, shelf 0 and shelf 1. All right, I hope you guys understand this thing. Again we'll remove the comma. All right, here we'll do, let's just keep it for floor 1 and 2 only. All right, now okay, let me just remove this. We'll keep it like this so that you guys will not confuse if I'll just elaborate it all the things, make floor 3 4 like that. So I just don't want to do that. I just want you guys to understand this thing. All right, here we can just skip this thing. Okay, now there is a time to access these elements. So how are we going to do that? System dot how dot println. Now here inside it we'll write, let's print it something. Let's write book at, let's say I want to print element at floor 0 and let's say shelf 0 again and position 1. All right, let's say I want to print this particular element. All right, so what I'm gonna do here, the name of the array library, and this is floor 0, right? So we are using floor 1. Wait, something is wrong. Oh, we are using floor 0, so floor 0, shelf 0, position 1. All right, yeah, position 1. Okay, let me just copy this thing. Look at floor 1, shelf 0, position 2. So floor 1, shelf 0, position 2. Let's see what it's gonna print, but right now it is showing some errors. Let's see. All right, so there are some errors. String cannot match. Now let's run again. As you can see, it is printing book at floor 0, shelf 0, position 1 is book A2. And why it is not printing the second thing that I'm wanting? Index to out of bounds, length 2 at. All right, let me just remove this, comment it out. Now let's check. Book at floor 0, shelf 0, position 1. Okay, book at floor 0, shelf 0, position 1. It is supposed to be book A2 and it is book A2. Okay, now let's do in this one only. Let's change it. Let's do 1, 0 and 2. Let's print it and check again. So here it is showing some error. Exception in thread main, index to out of bounds for length 2 at test. Index out of bound expression it is showing. So basically first, all right, so we can't use 2 as of now, is it? Because 0, 1 and position is only 1, 0 and 1. So we can't use 2, my bad. We have to use 1 only. And now let's print it. So yeah, book at floor 0. So just ignore this because we haven't changed this one. So here we want to print the element at floor 1 and shelf 0 and position 1. Floor 1, this is the floor, shelf 0, this is the shelf, and position 1, that is book B2. This is 0th position, this is 1th position, and book B2 is getting printed. So this is how you can do this particular question. This is basically the visual representation that I want you to show, and this is how we can access it, and then we can do operations on it. So like that you can do. All right, now for those guys who don't understand it, let me just go through it again. So shelf 0 has basically, as you can see on the screen, shelf 0 has book A1 and book A2, shelf 1 has book A3 and A4, and then comes floor 1. Floor 1 has shelf 0 that has book B1 and B2, and then shelf 1 has book B3 and book B4. All right, now here we are basically accessing the things. All right, this particular code. To find a book, you need to specify which floor you are on, which shelf you are on, and which position the book occupies. Then only you can print it or access that particular element. For example, as we printed here, as you can see, we want to print this particular element. Then we will write the floor, the shelf, the position. So basically this is a 3D array kind of situation. All right, then we will go to the floor 1, then we'll look at shelf 0, and then we'll pick the book in position 1. Like that it goes. So I hope you guys understand it. If you guys haven't understood it, you can just comment down below and we'll sort your queries. Now let's go to another question. Let's move on to another question in which we will print the multiplication results of every combination of numbers from 1 to 5. Basically, you can visualize it as a 1 to 5 columns and 1 to 5 rows. All right, so 1 to 5 vertically and 1 to 5 horizontally, and each position in the table holds the product of a row number and a column number, like 1 into 1, 1 into 2, 1 into 3, 1 into 4, 1 into 5, then 2 into 1, 2 into 2, 2 into 3. Like that it will go. The output is a multiplication table, the whole table showing these results. So we will be printing the whole table basically. All right. So let's do this. I hope you guys will understand this. So first of all, let's just remove this thing. All right. So first of all, this class main. Now we'll start with the name of the table, which is table. So this is the array name, and it is 5 cross 5 grid basically we want. All right, so we will be filling it now. So this is for the rows. For int I equals 0, I less than 5, I plus plus. Now for the column, we want int j equals 0, j less than 5, j plus plus. My bad. J less than 5, j plus plus. So basically this loop will loop through the rows and this loop will loop through the columns. All right. So this is how it is going. Keep it like this. All right. Now inside it, as we can see, we have to basically multiply the rows with columns one by one. So let me just write this thing first, then I'll make you understand. Okay, I plus 1 into, this is basically a logic, j plus 1. All right, so let me tell you guys what we are doing here is the formula, as we can see, I plus 1 into j plus 1. Here the formula is calculating the product of corresponding row and column. As I told you, it will be a 5 cross 5 grid. All right, so 5 columns and 5 rows, and we will be multiplying one by one each of them. All right, so this is this basically will calculate the product for the corresponding rows and columns. For example, here let's dry run it like I is 0 and j is 0 first of all. Then the table would be table 0, table 0 0, basically 0th row and 0th column. All right, then 0 plus 1 into 0 plus 1, which is 1. All right, so this will go like this. Then let's say if I is 1 here and j is 3, then it will become I plus 1, then it become, I repeat, then it will become 1 plus 1 into 3 plus 1, that is 2 into 4, that becomes 8. So this is how it is going. All right, now by the end of this step, the table array contains the multiplication table for numbers 1 to 5. All right, so this is what it is. Let me just go through this. Okay, so yeah, this is, we are out of the loop now. Now all we want to do is to print the table. Here we are doing the printing thing. All right, let me just mention. For this again, we have to loop through the rows and columns. So int I equals 0, I less than 5, I plus plus. Int j equals 0, j less than 5, j plus plus. All right, now system.out.println, here we will be printing the table I and j. Just we want to put some space in the end, so for that we will be using /t. All right, now here we are basically printing, and we want to move to the next line, the system.out.println, because we want to move to the next line. All right, now I hope it will work. Let's see. It should print 5 cross 5 grid. It is not printing. It is printing the correct output, but not in a particular way that I wanted. Let me just have a look at it. What's wrong? System.out.println. No. So basically /t is not working. All right. something is wrong with the print statement that I can see. This is also inside the print. Alright, something is wrong with the print statement as I told you, and so yeah, so basically here it is shifting it to the next line, which we don't want. For this particular thing we have to write system.out.print. Alright, now let's try. It should print. Yeah, as you can see, this is a 5x5 grid. 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 2 into 2 4 2 into 3 6 2 into 4 8 2 into 5 10. Then it should work similarly. 3 into 2 6 3 3 is a 9 3 4 is a 12 3 5 is a 15. So yeah, this is what we wanted to print and it is correct. So this is how you can also do the same example. If you are not able to do in the first place, just see the example and do again after understanding this particular problem. But I want you guys to do this examples and some more examples in order to grasp the concept in a better way.
Also, if you want to become a cloud professional and advance your career in one of the fastest growing fields, the Professional Certificate Program in Cloud Computing and DevOps is for you. This online program is designed for working professionals, providing practical skills and knowledge needed for cloud and DevOps roles. You can opt for additional AWS or Azure exam preparation for an extra fee. Whether you're starting fresh or leveling up, this program will help you take your career to the next level in cloud computing and DevOps. So don't wait, click the course link in the description to learn more. And that's a wrap on multi-dimensional arrays in Java. These powerful data structures are indispensable when it comes to organizing and manipulating data in a tabular or multi-layered format. From gaming and graphics to complex mathematical computations, their applications are vast and impactful. By now, you should have a solid understanding of how to work with 2D and 3D arrays, their structure, and their practical use cases. Now, I want you to practice some of these questions of multi-dimensional arrays. So go ahead and put this knowledge into action. So if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more updates.